Following President Muhammadu Buhari's assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, moved swiftly on Saturday to announce a new timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general election. Now joining us from Abuja to discuss the preparedness of the Electoral Commission and political parties to adhere to the new timetable is Victor Aluko, Director of Voter Education and Publicity at INEC. Good morning, Mr. Aluko, and welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us. We noticed that the Independent National Electoral Commission acted swiftly after the President signed the Electoral Act Amendment Bill into law. And there are sections of that, new law that affects INEC. Say, for example, Section 3, subsection 3, which says there should be early financing, independent financing of INEC, 365 days ahead, 1 year ahead. Is INEC working on that? Section 50, which deals with the electronic, transmission of results. Is INEC prepared? Section 47, which deals with electronic verification and the recognition of smart card reader or whatever other technology INEC requires. And then I think is this Section 54, yes, which deals with the right of persons with disabilities to be part of the electoral process. Is INEC, prepared, or is INEC just about to start preparing ahead of the election? In other words, how important is this new piece of legislation to INEC? What's the conversation in-house?
Thank you so much for having me. What INEC did 2 days ago on Saturday was to comply with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and, of course, the Electoral Act 2022. So the Commission released the timetable and schedule of activities for the 2023 general elections. Now you're talking about the issue of release of funds to the Commission a year ahead of the election. Of course, the Commission is discussing with the government of Nigeria. The Commission gets its funds from government. We are not a revenue generating institution, so we get all our funding from government, and government has never disappointed the Commission in terms of funding. So we believe that the government will do the needful. The Commission is in contact with government, and we believe the right thing will be done. You also talked about the issue of electronic transmission of results. Of course, Section 60 talks quite clearly about that. 50. And
Section 50.
The new Electoral Act talks clearly about that. And the Commission is actually looking into it. At the appropriate time, the Commission will inform Nigerians about the details of what will happen. But we must all agree that it's a welcome development for our elections, that we will be able to transmit results electronically from the polling unit to the World Collation Center, to the local government collation center, to the state collation center, and for presidential elections, of course, to the presidential collation center here in Abuja. It will make our processes more credible. It will make our processes more foolproof. And at the end of the elections, we believe that we'll be able to perform more credibly. You also talked about the issue of electronic verification of results and all those issues. You know fully well that we've started using what we call the bimodal voter accreditation equipment to be able to accredit voters, and of course to be able to ensure that voter impersonation is stamped out of our electoral process. We've been doing that for a while now, and we will continue to do that for the benefit of Nigeria and for the benefit of Nigerians. You also talk about the issue of the rights of disabilities. Of course, the Commission already, even before all this, established a full department for which we call Inclusivity and Gender Department to be able to ensure that the rights of people with disabilities, the rights of marginalized groups are respected within the electoral process, and that those rights are entrenched in our guidelines for elections and all we do.
Right, thank you so much. Let's also talk about some ways that, according to this Act now, it's no longer a bill, thank God for that, will make the 2023 election superior to the 2019 election. You talked about how the government has never disappointed with funding, yes, but then there were delays, there were budget delays for the 2019 election, which did cause some problems and hamper INEC logistically. So let's talk about how this act has, addressed that in Clause 3 and also Clause 65 on the issue of whether INEC must give a certificate of return when results have been announced under duress. You recall that INEC tried to stand against that in the case of Senator Rochas Okorocha and was overruled by court, but now you have legislation on your side. Just take us through how 2023 will be a better, election, more credible election than 2019.
Of course, with the new act, INEC has been given a leeway to be able to make the elections more credible. You know that in the past, our hands were tied in various areas. For example, you talked about the issue of compulsory issue of certificate of return, no matter what happens, especially in terms of where our returning officer was forced to issue to make a declaration. Of course, that section 65 now actually clears the issue and gives the commission the leeway to review that process. In other words, we're trying to stop a situation where what I would describe as electoral gangsterism, where somebody puts a gun on the head of a returning officer. And of course, you know that once that declaration is made, then there's only the courts that can settle the matter. But now, the court gives INEC the leeway to be able to do a review. And then I think this one should pass a clear message to our election participants in elections, our candidates who may think that whatever they do, there will not be any way we can review their activities. I think that one will make the process better. It will be a sort of deterrence to those who want to do the wrong things and always boast and say, let them go to court. So I think that section is a good one from the National Assembly, and INEC is extremely happy about that.
All right, thank you so much.
And of course, another...
Go ahead, sir, go ahead. Please go ahead.
Okay. Of course, you also talked about the various ways the Act will make the elections more credible. Of course, I talked about the issue of the extensive use of technology in the elections. Of course, we have to reduce the issue of the human angle in terms of conducting elections. We know our history in this country, and we'll be able to do a lot of research into the problems we've had before. And it's the result of all this research that informed the input INEC made into the bill. Of course, the National Assembly was quite gracious in terms of the relationship between the Commissioner and the National Assembly. We made inputs into that bill, and of course, a lot of our inputs were taken and reflected in the final act that was signed by the President. And of course, we believe that things will go on in a much better way now for the Commission and for the country. We all look for elections that are very credible, that are clean. You know, we're all working for Nigeria people. The best thing for any election is where we are able to guarantee what we call one man, one vote. Every vote must count. And that's the only way we can consolidate our democracy. People should be able to go into elections with confidence that if they contest, that the system will be fair, that the process will be clean, and that whoever wins will be announced. We do not want situations where what we call political, I use the word political gangsterism, of course. We don't want situations where actors within the process will be stronger than the law. We want the law to prevail. And of course, INEC is a credible organization. We will always apply the law. We will always ensure that everybody complies with the law.
So let's talk about provisions in this bill that talks about campaign spending and campaign funding. What I saw then in the bill is that there's going to be a submitted audit report. How do you verify such audit reports? Because if it's still incumbent on the parties to submit audit reports, hell yeah, they can get audited reports, but that doesn't mean that they will keep to the guidelines of spending. That's one. Number two, there's always been a dichotomy as regards, number of votes that come out of a polling unit vis-a-vis the number of people that voted and who emerges winner. So total number of people accredited vis-a-vis the number that comes out. What does the bill say about that threshold?
Well, you talked about the issue of campaign funds, campaign financing. Of course, the responsibility for that belongs more to the political parties. It's a time for what I would call electoral responsibility on the part of all stakeholders. Political parties know the law. They have lawyers among their executives. They have lawyers among themselves. And of course, among the candidates, also they have lawyers. They need to study the law and comply with the law in terms of campaign financing and campaign funding. For us in the Commission, the Constitution gives us the power to audit the accounts of political parties. We do that regularly, and we submit the report to the National Assembly. You know, that's just the way it is. The issue of compliance with the law on campaign financing, it's light more with the political parties. They should not break that law. They should keep to the law. Laws are made for compliance. Laws are made for them to comply with. And the issue of how much you can spend for presidential election, how much you can spend for other elections are clear. And I think the National Assembly did not make any mistake in setting this threshold. And so the parties should just, along with their candidates, should comply with all this. About the issue of, you mentioned the second issue now.
Overvoting, please, Section 51 of the Electoral Act.
Okay, yes. Now the law also provides that the accredited number of accredited voters will play a powerful role in determining that aspect of the process, because we are using beavers now, and so we are going to accredit persons, and of course, whoever does not have the correct PVC, that is the voter's card, and you are not in the register, we will not accredit you. So it is a number that's accredited that will be used to determine all other things at the polling unit. And I think that is better than the system before, where you talk about the total registered voters in a polling unit. I think we have moved away from that now, and we have moved to a better way where it's actually those who appear at our polling units, because you know voting is not by proxy. Those who come to the polling unit, those who get accredited, and that is what will be used.
Well,
it makes the system better. It makes the system more credible.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Victor Aluko. The test of any law is in its implementation. And I hope INEC is aware of the fact that your department, Department of Voter Education, needs to do a lot to also educate the electorate. And if anything goes wrong in 2023, INEC will take a big chunk of the blame. But, you know, we wish you very well, and thank you for joining us this morning.